Well, we're now being joined by Dr. Akin Ogunsola, who is an economist and senior partner at accounting firm Karma Professional Services. Thank you so much for joining us on the news tonight.
Thank you very much, Adeswa.
A lot of issues to unpack, but I think this is a good way to begin. We've seen this cash squeeze before in recent times. The last time we saw was under former President Muhammadu Buhari during the currency change design.
Yeah.
Is that what we are facing again at this time? I mean, the ATMs are running dry. Customers are turning to POS operators who are cashing out. The CBN all of a sudden is waking up to step up to say reporters. But what exactly is going on here? We know banks are upgrading, as they say, but is that reason enough?
Thank you very much for having me. I think the situation is actually because of network issues with the banking sector. Some other banks are doing upgrade of the bank app and even their systems because cybercrime is still right here with us, and system upgrade is necessary from time to time to also curb cybercrime. So as a result of that, there are disruptions in the financial system, and people are in a hurry to get money because we're into the Yuletide season. They want to do shopping before prices goes up, and all the pressure now on the banking sector. So that's what's causing the cash crunch.
Okay, so there's a cash crunch, we have established that.
Oh yeah.
And it's because of an upgrade. But for those who even go into the banking hall, you heard some of those respondents speaking to Arise News. Over the counter, they're still giving limited cash, I mean, it's their money they deposited. You heard that guy say, there'll be trouble between you and I, just give me my money. Why do we still have that issue?
Oh yes, because the CBN is still controlling the amount of cash in circulation, because we don't need to have so much cash in circulation. It's also dangerous because the limit we have already, CBN admitted that we've given over 4 trillion of cash in circulation, and 3.13 trillion are, outside the banking sector. So we need to still monitor the amount of cash, the volume of cash that goes into circulation. So some will be given the 50,000 and above counter, some might not get it. Also, the cashless policy has not been, set aside. It's still enforced. So they're just trying to manage the situation as it is now.
The cashless policy drive, are we being too fast, and are we leaving behind the vulnerable Nigerians, the Nigerians who just cannot do without cash on a daily basis? It's
not so, because you also know that sometime within the middle of this year, there was enough money within circulation. We didn't have cash crunch, and the cashless policy was there. But now the major thing that is also causing it because the network issues is there, and we are already in the harvest season. People are going into the rural areas to buy up crops from the farmers, and these farmers are saying, no, I don't want to have any problem with the bank. Please, can you get me
transactions.
Failed transactions. The money has entered, the money has not entered, argument. So those people in the rural interiors, they are insisting on, please come with cash if you must buy maize, if you must buy groundnut, if you must buy beans, because we're in the harvest season. So a lot of demand, for cash this season as a result of that. So, and that's why we're having this pressure on the banking sector.
While we can make excuse for the banks making an upgrade at this time, as the traditional banks are struggling, as you heard that expert speak, and it is the reality for many Nigerians, the fintech banks that hardly have a physical structure that you can walk into, they don't have such instances as failed transactions or money being taken from their accounts without their knowledge. So how do you explain this unexpected trend that the traditional institutions, the traditional banks are having these problems and struggling, but you see the fintech banks are thriving?
Yeah, it depends on the kind of security that the banking sector actually puts in place. The fintech companies put strong security, into their applications, while the regular banking sector, is not as if they don't have security, but the kind of security they have is such one that they need to be upgrading from time to time. We see other, applications to request for upgrades due to security. People's money are involved, and a couple of persons goes to the bank and complain that my money is taken from me without my knowledge and all that. Though some of them are careless, maybe exposing their BVN, their passwords and all that, but the bank is still working up to see that they reduce the number of complaints. And one way to do that is to, upgrade, do a kind of change in the system so that probably maybe some hackers have gotten a clue to what the security is. So it becomes necessary to actually upgrade and re-strategize the platform so that it will be more safe for people.
Is it possible that the traditional banks have been caught napping? Why the fintech banks that have barely come into the market, the financial sector, are thriving so well? But when we make that sort of excuse for them, efficient currency circulation is necessary for economic stability. How well do you think we are handling that? And what do we need to do really to ensure that we have the right amount of money in circulation to enable stability of the economy?
Yeah, the CBN is actually in charge, and I think they are handling that well. They are monitoring the volume of cash in circulation per time. And at any point when the CBN feels we have so much money, they have the powers within their laws and their acts to, mop up cash from circulation. And by doing that, I think where we usually have the problem is our network structure. Yes, we don't want so much cash in circulation, but the network that we'll use to make these transfers, withdrawals from ATM, the networks often fail. And when we have failure in network, then it brings a lot of pressure. So I think the banks need to actually ensure that they have a very good and reliable platforms for their customers to transact, so that the cashless policy will actually flow smoothly, instead of people relying, now shifting to the POS to go and withdraw cash. And that is not even good for our economy.
I'm glad you brought up the POS. The CBN recently, some days ago, came out with this circular that should be in effect from December 1, threatening to impose fines on banks for shortage of cash, asking the public to call certain numbers to report. But is this a serious enforcement policy on the part of CBN, or is this just another flash in the pan response by the CBN? Also the POS. When you have all of this issue about cash shortages, mutilated naira from the bank, from the traditional bank, it's not the case with the POS. So is there also an issue of collusion that is ongoing here? Because you find the new notes sprayed at parties, but when you go to the bank, nobody's giving you new notes. If you go to the ATM, it's limited new notes you can get. What exactly is going on? It doesn't make any sense, really, does it?
Yeah, in our system, the meaning of that is just that we still have some saboteurs in the system that, keep the new notes and use it for their own business by, to sell the naira to the POS. The POS are, designed to also feed in from the conventional banks. They go to the banks to withdraw, and then they, take the money with them to, distribute to other, people that need the money. So some persons that are actually sabotaging the system, they get to, hoard this cash and then take it to the POS, and then begin to charge exorbitant,
Is that charges beyond the CBN? How is this happening under the noses of the banks and the CBN?
That's why the CBN turned out that warning that if there's any situation of such, it should be reported to them. So if CBN is getting reports just on the pages of newspaper and the televisions, nobody is reporting that I was in so-so bank today and this happened, then CBN might not be able to do anything. So the best thing is for customers to report, and that's why that circular was actually thrown out.
So you think it's a right step in the right direction to resolve this issue?
It is the right step.
Well, Dr. Akin Ogunsola, thank you so much for being on the news tonight. We do appreciate your time. An economist and senior partner at accounting firm Karma Professional Services.